Hello. Today I'm going to teach you how to set up a MikroTik router together with a Unify AP. This is my Unify AP. Yeah, it's dirty. Yeah, but just this one is just for testing. So pardon me, okay? So this is my Unify AP. You can see the logo on it, U. And then this is my MikroTik router. This MikroTik router. This is my MikroTik router. This is what I'm going to integrate. So I'm going to integrate the two of them. So Unify AP together with the MikroTik router. Are you with me? So this is what we are going to do for today. So that we'll mount this one on this one. Then we'll get our internet from this one, from an SSI. So that wherever this person will be mounted at, or whichever this access point, that's the unified access point, will be mounted at, we will still get internet connectivity. Please, are you with me? So this is what we are going to do for today. So this is the adapter for the AP. This very adapter. This is the adapter for the AP. We call it the PoE. The name we mostly give it to is the PoE. Power over Ethernet, PoE. You can see it written there boldly, PoE. Yes. So what I'm going to do now is I'll connect I have my cable here. I'll connect one of my cable to the PoE, just like this. So connect it to the PoE, and then connect that one to the access point. See, there's a port here. There's an Ethernet port here. So I'm going to put it there. So if this access point, my access point is an old access point. You can see the rough nature of it. If your access point is new, then there will be no need for you to reset. But if the access point is old, like mine, and it has been used somewhere before, there will be a need for you to reset it. And for you to reset it, simply there's a button, a small hole here, like my pin for instance, a small pin like this. You put a pin there, you press on it and hold for a while, then the light will start blinking. And the light must maintain white. It mustn't maintain blue. If it is on a blue color, it means the AP is online. But if it is on a white color, then it means the AP is ready to be adopted, or it is ready to be used, or it is ready to be configured on. Yeah, so that is what basically it is. So I'll connect my PoE to the adapter. PoE, I'll connect one side of the cable to the PoE, and the other side of the cable to the AP. PoE simply means power over Ethernet, so it will give this AP power, okay, light, electricity, so that it take light. Then I'll take my second cable, which is this one. I take this cable, connect it to the LAN. So I'll connect it to the LAN, and then this cable will now go into my MikroTik router. So I'll choose port 3. Any port will do for now. So I can choose port 2. Why am I not choosing port 1? So that the labelings are there. We have port 1, that's port 1, and we have port 2, port 3, port 4, port 5. Port 1 particularly is for uplinks. What is an uplink? An uplink is so you connect an Ethernet cable like this to that modem, and then come and connect it to port 1. Port 1 actually takes internet, so we call it the uplink. So that's the uplink. So the uplink is where your Ethernet source is coming from. You connect one of the cables there, one side of the cable there, and come and connect the other side of the cable in port 1. Then you get your internet on this router. That's the MikroTik router. So I have my cable there, which is connected to my modem down there. In fact, it is another router though, but it's an uplink. That is where I'm getting my internet source from. Later, but I'm just explaining it to you. It's down there, so I'm just going to put it in port 1. So this very cable now will go to port 2. So I'll simply put it at port 2. I'm doing the connections for you to see before I put them down. So port 2. So I've placed it in port 2. Now that's port 2. So that's port 2. It's in port 2. I have another cable, which is this very cable. Now I'm done with the setting up of the AP, the access point. So the access point, one side goes to the PoE and one side goes to the AP access point. And then one side comes from the adapter to my MikroTik router. Okay, so that's the connectivity for access point. Now let's go to my computer. On this very computer, I'll connect this one, one of the cable sides, the Ethernet cable, to any of the ports, any of the available ports. We call it the management port, and I'll choose port 3. Good. So I'll place it in port 3, and I'll connect the other side of the cable to my computer so that I can manually go into this and configure the MikroTik router for the connectivity. Whereby I'll allow internet from this one, from my source to come into this one, and then from this one to my access point. Are you getting it? So I'm going to configure my MikroTik router in such a way that I'll get a hotspot from the MikroTik router and give it to my AP. All right. Okay. So connectivity will be in this way. Internet into port 1 from my other modem, then it will come into my MikroTik router. Then I'll configure my MikroTik router in such a way that I'll be able to get internet into the MikroTik router first and foremost. Then I'll channel that internet to the access point that I have here. But I'm going to do it in such a way that before someone can get connection to the internet through the access point, the person must authenticate. So we are going to see A.A A, okay, authentication A.A A. So this side is going into my computer. So I'm going to put in it there now. Okay, so what is now left is the uplink. It's down there. It's that short, so I'll just take the MikroTik router there and then continue with the whole process. Then I'll power on the MikroTik router and then power on the adapter, as you can see, for my access point to come on. The color must maintain white so that we can configure it. All right. Yeah. So we can continue. Okay. But before I continue, I would like to introduce myself. My name is William Sam. I'm a network engineer at A.A Network and currently living in Ghana. Okay, so basically what my company does is we provide internet connectivity to institutions, to schools, to organizations that need internet access. That's what we do, and we do it remotely. So as a network engineer, I do quite a number of the configurations, the configurations I showed you. So that's what we do here, and that's what I do here in my company. So I configure most of the devices, including Cisco devices and also MikroTik devices and access points as well. So we do everything, and I do the remote access in the office here to assist the field engineers wherever they are. Okay, so that's basically what I do here in my company. So I'm a network engineer at A.A Network in Ghana. Before we can actually start to do this one, we will need an application called Winbox, and this is what I've launched the application. You can see at the top here written Winbox. So Winbox is what will help us log into the MikroTik router. Okay, so that's Winbox for us. Okay, so you need to download an application called Winbox and you need to check your specs, which specs you use for your computer 6432. You download as such, then it is that way. After you have downloaded Winbox, there's another application that you need to also download, which is also called the Unify controller. The Unify controller actually helps us to get the IP address and the MAC address in times where we are unable to see the IP address and the MAC address. So we'll jump into, or we will use the Unify controller to get those details. So we are going to see that soon. You would understand what I mean. So when I have reset the MikroTik router, it's fresh. It's just as maybe it's like we have bought it new. It's fresh. It's not configured. Nothing has been done, worked on. So anytime it is fresh, or anytime you reset it to factory reset, it shows a MAC address and also an IP address of 4 zeros. Okay, so it shows a MAC address and IP address of 4 zeros. This very one that we are seeing here is an uplink, but we will ignore this one for now. But this is what we are actually paying attention to. This is for the MikroTik router. That is what we are actually going to do now here. Okay, so basically we would click on this one, and you know, if it is a fresh MikroTik router, you don't need a password, so there's no password for that one. So we'll just connect, and when we connect, you see it is saying that we should set a new password. The old password is no password. We'll leave it blank. We can jump into the next and set our password, but we wouldn't bother to do it now. I've logged into this MikroTik router already, but mostly when you log into it freshly, you will see remove configuration. Kindly click on the remove configuration and delete it and let it go. So there are basic things that we are going to set. So I'll come to quick set. I'll select my WISP. WISP is for wide services. Okay, so I'll name this MikroTik router as testing. So this is the SSID I'll find on my MikroTik router. So testing MikroTik. Okay, testing MikroTik. So when we see, you see currently I don't have internet connectivity. As you can see on the screen, I don't have internet connectivity. So, and there isn't any name called testing MikroTik. No, there isn't. So after configuring this and we see testing MikroTik, it means it is coming from the MikroTik router, and we can get, you see, the MikroTik router also serves as an AP, an access point at the same time. So aside the very access point that I showed you earlier, the MikroTik router also stands as an access point. So even if there isn't any access point available, the MikroTik router can give you the SSID, and that SSID happens to be this testing MikroTik. That's why I've placed it here. So we can also get it, but it means you need to be that close to the MikroTik router before you can get the name or the connection to be that strong. Or to extend the internet connectivity to different offices, that is why we go in place of extended APs or access points, and in this case we are using the Unify access point. If this MikroTik router is in one office, that very office will get a stronger connection for internet, because everyone in that office can get the SSID and the connectivity will be that strong. But what of the next office? The connectivity wouldn't be strong. That is why we go in for the Unify access point, the access points, extended access points, whereby we can mount access points in different offices for good connectivity. Please, are you with me? All right. So basically that's what we'll do here. And over here, when I come here, and because I have chosen this WISP AP because I wanted to cover a lot of people, wide range people. There's home. If you are doing this in your home and you want it to be in different rooms for your own children or something, that is normal, so you can use the home. But for WISP, it's a company, and company, quite a number of people in different offices would log on, and we don't want any complications later, so would go with the WISP AP. So as I come here, okay, before this actually comes, I need to set the MikroTik router as a bridge. So to set the MikroTik router as a bridge, let me close this one first. I'll go to IP, then I'll go to DHCP client. And DHCP client, remember I placed my app link in port 1. So I'm going to make that port a client so that it can receive an IP. And there we have it from my app link. So it has received an IP from my app link. So when I close this one and I go back to the quick set, then go to WISP and go to WISP. Good, yeah. So WISP AP, instead I've gotten an IP and everything is looking beautiful. So I'll come here, come and select NAT. I don't want to forget, so let me select it button for. Okay, so now I'm going to create my bridge. That's the next thing to do. So I'll click on plus to create my bridge, and I'll just name this as hotspot. Yes, hotspot. And that is where all the ports will be logged on. All my ports will be logged on this port, this bridge called hotspot bridge. Okay, this bridge. So I'm going to add all the ports to it. Okay, so port 1, with the exception of port 1, so port 2 will be on hotspot bridge. Port 3, the same. Port 4, same. Okay, to bring me back, it logged me out because my computer is on port 3. So that's why it logged me out. So let's go. Let's continue. Don't worry, it's the same port 4, then port 5, and not forgetting the last one, which is the W1 wireless local area network. This one, wireless local area network, that one is also going to be on port on the bridge called hotspot bridge. So that's what we have over there. Okay, so let me take it again. So we'll create our bridge called hotspot bridge. Then we're going to put all the ports, all the ports on that hotspot bridge. Okay, so that's what we have done now. Okay, now that we have done this, the next thing to do now is to create address. So let's create an address. So here I'll say my address should be 10.10.10.1/24, and I'll put that one on hotspot bridge. So my hotspot bridge would get this IP address. I'll say apply to get this one, and I'll say okay. Now that I have this one, let me go back to my quick set and see something. I should see something here. WISP. Okay, so this is what we have here. It's looking nice. I can now click on NAT, and then I'll clear this very one from there and just say testing. You know, previously we were not able to name and save it as and click OK or apply because this IP address hadn't come by then. But now that we've done it, we can confidently go ahead and just do that. Testing MikroTik. Then I'll say apply and then OK. When I do that, I should be able to get internet connectivity now. I should be able to get internet, but you can see my testing MikroTik has appeared. The SSID has appeared over here, and this very SSID that we are seeing is from the MikroTik router, the name that we give to it. This very one here, this one, testing now, this one. Okay, so I should be getting an IP address, but don't worry. The next thing to do is to create a DHCP server. I need to create a DHCP server, and I'll create it on hotspot. I'll say next, and this is the IP address I used. Okay, next, and that's the first gateway. Next, and this is the range it is giving me. I'll say next. It's okay. And over here, these are the DNS servers I'm going to use, and I'll say next. It's okay, this one is fine. Then I'll say next, and it has successfully created my DHCP server. So I should be getting an IP address soon on my personal laptop. So what I'll simply do is I'll restart the MikroTik router. I'll reboot it so that it will take effect. Okay. Okay, so now that it has rebooted, let me summarize, or let me go over what I did. First and foremost, I went to quick set, then I went to WISP. I selected WISP, then I chose automatic so that I can get an IP address from my app link. So this one is coming from my app link. Okay, I was not able to save it or press OK or apply because I hadn't have given an IP address to the system yet. So I went back to create a bridge. I created a bridge and I called that bridge hotspot bridge. Hotspot, okay, the type is bridge. Then I placed all my ports in that bridge from port 2 all the way to port 5, including my wireless local area network. Okay, so now that it has rebooted, let me summarize, or let me go over what I did. First and foremost, I went to quick set, then I went to WISP. I selected WISP, then I chose automatic so that I can get an IP address from my app link. So this one is coming from my app link. Okay, I was not able to save it or press OK or apply because I hadn't have given an IP address to the system yet. So I went back to create a bridge. I created a bridge and I called that bridge hotspot bridge. Hotspot, okay, the type is bridge. Then I placed all my ports in that bridge from port 2 all the way to port 5, including my wireless local area network port. Okay, then I made the device a DHCP client by clicking on the plus here, and the DHCP client simply means I want to receive IP for internet connectivity on this MikroTik router. So and that app link is on port 1, so I just made port 1 just like this. When you click port 1 just like this, you press OK, and that is it. So this is what I've gotten, and it gave me the IPs that we are seeing here, these were IPs. Okay, then the next thing I did was to create address. So I created an address 10.10.10. This is what I simply did. I just typed the address here, chose the hotspot, and I applied first to see the network, then I clicked on OK. Alright, so this is what I did, and from here I went back to my server, DHCP server. I created a DHCP server here, a DHCP server. I clicked on DHCP setup here like this, and I selected my hotspot. Then I went to, and I finished it. Okay, then I came to, when I was done with the DHCP server, okay, so I was able to come and do the NAT over here, and then I applied it and I saved it successfully. Okay, fine. Now let's go back to IP, then DHCP server. Have a look at something. I want to see whether my computer has been given an IP address, and yes, my computer has been given an IP address, and that is, it says no internet. It says that's 10.10. This is my computer 9C2DCD. This one, so 10.10.10.253. It says no internet. Let me try to see if I can browse. Let me go to you. No, let me see. Okay, hello Google. Let me see if I can browse. No, I can't browse. Okay, so I want to check up on my app link and see what is happening over there. Then I'll come back again to come and make sure that this one works now. Now it is connected, but there isn't any internet flowing, so I want to make sure that that is corrected. I'm taking my app link and correct that. So I should be getting an IP address and internet connectivity soon. So let me check. I should be getting, yes, I have my internet connectivity now. So you can see internet access. Let me try to see if I can browse. So let me say hello for Google, and Google brought me hello messages. That's a number. Let me close this one and then go to and see if I can still browse YouTube. So now I am browsing freely with no authentication from the MikroTik router, straightforward, with no authentication. You can see over here I'm browsing. Let me play something so that you know that it is actually, I'm able to browse well. Those were nice moves, thank you. Okay, so you can clearly see that I can browse. Okay, I'm able to browse. Okay, great. Now that I'm able to browse, I don't want users to get free connectivity like that. No, what I want is, before a user connects to my internet, the user should authenticate himself, herself, and that's the next thing we are going to do now, to create authentication on this platform. So I'll close this one, and then I'll come to IP, and at IP I'll come to hotspot. So the hotspot, I'll set up hotspot setup, and the hotspot will be on hotspot bridge, and I'll say next. This IP address, that's what I want. Next. No. DNS name. DNS name could be any name which you can use to get to the router. It is any name you choose to use, which you can use to get to the router, but for now I'll leave it blank. We'll go to the next one. Okay, so hotspot, name of local hotspot user, that's admin, and I'll create my password as 1234. That's for now. Okay, so I'll say okay. So this is what I've created, my hotspot, and I'll come to users. So the admin has been created and the password is 1234. I'm going to add another user. I'll call that user user1. Then I'll create another password as 12345, and I'll say apply, and then okay. Okay, so now that we have this one, I'll come to my hotspot. This is my hotspot, the bridge. This is what I have. So I'll come here, then I'll go to login. Login is looking okay, and then I'll come to this very one here, radius. That's the interesting part here. So I'll get to radius, then I'll check this one, and when I check this one, I'll just say apply and then okay. All right, so that's what I'll do for this very one here. So my servers, let me see this one. Okay, let me explain something here. Over here you can see addresses per MAC. Addresses per MAC, they've written 2. What does this mean? It simply means that a user can use only 2 devices to log in. So you can use one user details for 2 devices only. You can't add a third device to it. So your user details, you can only use it to log into 2 devices at a time, but not more than 2 devices. So at a workplace, maybe in an office, if you want to give your workers the chance to also use their phone alongside the computers which is meant for them in the office, then it will be 2 devices. So addresses per MAC will be 2, but now I'll just leave it to be 2 for now and say okay. Okay, so basically that's what we've done. There's another one that we have to pay attention to. We have to come to radius. Radius is what we are going to do. So we click on incoming and just say incoming as we check it as accept. Okay, and we click OK. Then we close this one. Okay. So now that I'm done doing the radius. So now that I'm done doing the radius and I've checked it in, okay, that's the only thing I want to do here. Then the next thing I want to do now is at the same radius, remember, at the same, you click on radius, you click the plus sign. At the same radius, I want to check this one as login. So when a person is you are telling the person that you need to log in before you can get access to the internet. So log in, and we have hotspot 2 at the same time. So over here, the address I'm going to put there is a loopback address. So I'll just put 127.0.0.1 over there as the address. Then I'll just apply over here. So as I've done this one already, as I've added the radius into it already, let's look at how it is. It is looking now. So status is fine. So log in, then we have hotspot. So I'm going to disconnect I'm going to reboot the system again for it to take effect. So simply reboot the system so that everything will take effect. Incoming is looking good. So reboot the system so that it will take effect. System reboot, and then we say yes. Okay. Okay, so now I've rebooted the system, and now I don't have internet connectivity. It should say that I should log in. Now I can use the wireless connectivity, that's the testing MikroTik, to connect to the system. So I'm disconnecting my cable from it now. I'm just disconnecting my cable, and now that I've disconnected my cable, I want to connect wirelessly. So I'm connecting wirelessly into the system. Connect wirelessly. So as I'm connecting, it should say that it will require me to authenticate before I can use the internet. And that is what we are seeing here. So you can see that it is asking me to enter my user details before I can get internet connectivity. Now I've taken the cable out and I'm trying to log in wirelessly. Remember, we created this SSID on the MikroTik Router, testing MikroTik, and I'm trying to log in and it says no internet, but it's open. But before I can actually get internet, I need to use my user credentials before I can get the internet connectivity on this MikroTik Router. Remember, we created user connectivity. We have admin and the password was 1234, and then we created that of user 1 as 12345. So anyone that I choose to use, it would work out. So I'm choosing admin, so I'm going with 1234, and then I'll connect. And immediately I connect, it says you are logged in. Now I'm connecting my cable back to the computer, my Ethernet cable back to the computer, so that I will be able to configure the rest on the MikroTik router. Okay, so here I'm choosing this one, and then I connect back to the MikroTik router. Now that I've connected back to the MikroTik router, let's pay attention to this. I'm going back to hotspot, so I'll go to IP, then hotspot, and I'm going to IP bindings. What am I coming to do at IP bindings? As it stands now, the access point will not be able to get onto the internet. Why? Because the access point must authenticate before getting access onto the internet. And because access point cannot authenticate on its own, and we too cannot go into the access point and go and allow the authentication before it getting access to the internet, we will simply come here and exempt that access point MAC address and tell the system that, hey, as for this very MAC address, leave him alone. Don't apply authentication to him or her. And that very person that we are talking of now is the access point here. So if you have 100 access points that you want them to get connectivity to the internet for you to configure them, what you need to first and foremost do is you need to allow them to pass through the internet. But that does not mean that when people are trying to get to log onto wirelessly onto the internet, they can simply just log onto it freely. No, those people, they have their own device MAC addresses, and those MAC addresses have not been allowed in the system. So those MAC addresses must be authenticated before they can get access to the internet. The person will be authenticated. Why? Because the person's device has a MAC address, and that MAC address has not been allowed to pass through without authentication. So even though an access point will be mounted in a particular office, and that access point's MAC address is freely allowed, it does not mean that when a user in that office tries to connect wirelessly to that access point, it doesn't mean that the person will be made to pass through. No. Why? Because the MAC address will not or has not been allowed in the system. And as we can see, when we come to users, when we come to when we come to IPDCP server, when we come to leases, you realize that the MAC address for the access point is this one. E0, this very one that we are having here, this very one that we're having here. Why am I having two IP addresses here? Why? Because I'm having two IP addresses because this is my computer which is connected VAR cable, and this very one is connected wirelessly. That's why I can say desktop, they're active. This middle one is VAR cable. I've connected my cable back so that I'll be able to configure the MikroTik router, and this one is connected wirelessly, which is giving me the internet connection here. Okay, so this IP address, remember we're having 2 IP addresses showing previously, okay, but now we're having 3. The third one, the top one, is simply the wireless one that came to join, but I'm connecting via cable, and this cable is what I'm using to configure the MikroTik router at the moment. So this is the IP address for the AP, and this is its MAC address. So I'll simply come here and come and create and come and put it down. So here I'll come here and come and put that MAC address down. So I'll jot that MAC address down, E0 for the AP 63 DA 6D 23 and then C3, E0 63 DA 6D 23 and then C3. So I'll copy this MAC address and then I'll leave this place, come to IP, come to the hotspot, come to IP bindings, and tell this guy that, hey, but please allow this person to pass through without authentication. Them all servers, and then we say bypassed. So that's what we are going to do. So from any to any 00 like that, and we'll bypass it. So bypass all of these people and freely go into the system and enjoy. So if you have 4 offices, and in each office you want to mount an access point in each of those offices, you would have to come here because there is an authentication on the network, but the access point cannot authenticate itself before getting access to the internet. So you come into the system, go to the hotspot, go to hotspot will open this way for you. Then you come to IP bindings and come and say, hey, I know you are authenticating, but please exempt these people from the authentication process. Okay, so the people you are exempting are the access points, their MAC addresses. The access point, the MAC addresses embedded in each access point, you are going to exempt all of them. So if you have 4 offices, you need to exempt all, from any address to any address, all servers. Then you say bypassed. Then you can click and just apply and say okay. So if you have 4 offices, so for now I'm taking this IAP as the first office. So I'll come and make this IP address, this MAC address bypass. Let it bypass the authentication process so that I will be able to mount it successfully into the system. Then after mounting it successfully into the system, then any other person who is using a different device, because every device has a unique MAC address on it. Any device that is trying to get access to the internet will not easily be allowed to go into the internet. Why? Because you need to go through the authentication process, and going through the authentication process, you need to have a user details in the system, in the MikroTik router, before you'll be allowed to go through the authentication process. Before you can even get internet connectivity. Without that, no, sorry. Okay, now that we've done this one, now we have allowed it to go through. Now our work here is partially done. We'll need another application called PuTTY. So you come to PuTTY. We have already logged into this system. It's telling me to log in again. So let's go to PuTTY. So PuTTY, then so PuTTY download. Yes, you come and download your PuTTY. Go through the process, just download it. It's easy to download, and that is it. You are done. I've already downloaded mine, so I'm just coming to take my putty. I already know my IP address for the access point, and that IP address happens to be this one, 10.10.10.254. So I'm just going to put it into the putty. Where's my putty? I just open putty. So okay, this is my putty, yeah. So 10.10.10.254, and I'll open. So connection reported. So let's go back to putty. 10.10.10.254. Okay, there we have it. So it allowed me this time around. So the default username is UBNT. If it is a new access point, remember we are trying to bring the access point live onto the internet so that the access point will get internet connectivity, so that any other user who wants to get internet connectivity who can connect to that SSID which is on the access point onto the internet. So now we've entered into the access point, and the default username is UBNT. The password too is UBNT. The same thing. Now I'm into the access point, and I'm going to send this command, but we are going to give a different SSID to the access point itself. The access point is going to get a different SSID, which is going to be unique for. So when you immediately see that SSID, you know that, oh, this one is for all the SSIDs, and for all the access point SSIDs. That is for all the access points. So every office that we get to, if there happens to be, so there is going to be a unique SSID for all the access points which will be mounted in each and every office. That's basically what I'm trying to put across here. Okay, so I'm going to log in into our system. I'm using our system for now for you to understand what we are doing. So I'll log into the system. So I want to log in first before I come. So I'll log in into the system. Sorry, but I don't want to give my company details out. So I'll log into the system which we are dealing. So I'm going to create a site for this very thing we are doing. AP setup. AP setup. That's how I'm going to name this site. So AP setup, add a new site. So I've created AP setup, and in this AP setup you realize that there are no unified devices, there are no APs here. And so I'm going to create the SSID. So when you come here, there'll be a very unique SSID for it. AP setup. AP setup. And the password too is the same as AP setup. Here. So when someone is trying to log into our system, the person must see this SSID, AP setup. The person will see this SSID, and the person will try to log into this SSID, onto this SSID with this password. So as the person has finished logging into this SSID, the person would have to authenticate again into our system, that's the MikroTik system, before the person will be allowed to enjoy the internet. So I'm going to apply. Let me say 1. Okay. AP setup 1. So I'm going to apply. I've applied it, and now I have my setup here. No problem. Okay, now that we have this one, I'll now go into this AP and push the command. Immediately I push the command, you see that it has come here for me to adopt it. So I'll simply adopt it. I'll simply adopt it. And let's have a look at something. As I am adopting it, you can see there's a white light here showing here boldly here. As I'm adopting it, the white light should change it to, and that's what we have. It has changed it to blue. It has a blue color now. Beautiful blue color now. So it has a blue color now. So to do a neat work, we'll call this access point as AP1 or office, HR office. Maybe this is where we are mounting this access point. You see, it has turned into a blue color now, meaning that it is online. So HR office. Okay, so we took it, HR office. So if there's another access point that we are going to put on board, the next access point will maybe project manager office. That's what the access point will be, so it will be there. And all of them will have these details. This is the very details we are seeing here. This one, AP setup. Let me see something. Then when I check my, oh yes, you can see the SSID showing. So this is the SSID everybody would get connected to. We wouldn't give there'll be a password on this testing MikroTik, but we will not give it to anybody. We want everyone to get connected to this AP setup. That's the access point which will be mounted in every office. So AP setup is the name that everyone, there is the SSID that everyone is going to connect to. All right. So that's what I'll take my phone and I'll connect to that very soon for you to see it. Okay. Now that it has turned to blue, and now my access point is here. You can see the color is blue now. Previously it was white, but now it is a blue color now. Okay. Now that it has turned to blue, what I need to do now is into a blue color now, what I need to do now is I simply have to take my phone and bring my face back. I'll take my phone and among the SSIDs that we have there, you can see my phone. Let me off it. Let me off the Wi-Fi. If I've off the Wi-Fi, I'm going to on it back. And as I've on it, you can see AP setup right there. So I'm choosing AP setup for myself. It is telling me to put the password. So I'm going to put the password quickly. And remember, it was AP setup 1. So I'll put the password AP setup 1. I've placed the password. I'm going to connect as if I'm going to enjoy the internet. Then it will tell me to authenticate. There we have it. So you can see authenticate. So I need to authenticate first. There we have it. So you can see it is working now. So I need to authenticate. I'm going to let me create a new user. So I'm going to create a new user here. So I'll close this one. And I'll come here, IP hotspot. Then I'll come to users. And I'll say user 2. User 2, I need ABCD as my password. Apply. Okay. So I need to connect. So it is telling me to put my credentials. So I'm going to use user 2. Let me connect. User 2. user 2. I don't know if you can see. So user 2. Okay, so user 2 is there. You can see it, user 2. Then I have to put my password ABCD. So my password will be A B C and D. Now connect. And it says what? You are logged in, and it says connected. App setup, app AP setup, or app setup, and that is what I have now. I have internet connectivity now. Now I can browse. So you see at the top, the Wi-Fi logo is there. You can see at the top, there's the Wi-Fi is there. The Wi-Fi signal is there. So let me go to YouTube and browse. So YouTube is opening, and it should be playing, and it's just playing. Nice one. Okay, so that's what we have. Thank you. So you see, basically I've been able to do the configuration whereby I was able to configure the MikroTik router from beginning, from scratch, create a bridge, make the MikroTik router what we call a DCP client, then I've created a bridge, made it a client, put ether1 as a client actually, and then go and create my addresses. I'll put the step by step over there, how I went about it, so that you can follow as such. Maybe if the video confused you in a way, I'll just put the step by step process there, approach there, as to how I went about it, as to what to do and what to click on next. Then from there I went to do my hotspot, and when I did my hotspot, I went to exempt the access point. Even though I exempted the access point, it did not give me the privilege to browse freely. No. So I exempted the access point, but I didn't get a free internet connectivity. I had to authenticate, and authentication, I needed to have my details in the system before I could authenticate myself. So even if you have the password to the SSID, that's the AP setup, you still need to authenticate yourself from our system before you can get internet connectivity, before you can browse. So, and you see, remember we gave every user 2 sessions, and 2 sessions, if you misuse it, it is done. So basically that's what we have done. So in all, I've been able to mount the access point. I've been able to mount my access point in our controller, and I called it HR1. So the HR1, that's what HR office, and I called the HR office. Another office will do the same thing as well, and this very access point is connected directly to the MikroTik router, and that's what we have done for today. So today what we have basically done is connecting or integrating Unify access point to a MikroTik router with authentication. So integrating Unify access point to the MikroTik router with authentication. I'm open to more questions, and if there's anything you don't understand, let me know. I'll clarify and let you know the next step or the next thing to do. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.